Hey everyone, welcome to part 8 of this man with no name statue painting tutorial. Patreon exclusive, obviously. I'm Darren Cardinal, hi. Okay, let's get on with this. Last time we did the aging on the leather straps to make it look like old worn leather that had years of, you know, the ends being grabbed, so all the skin oils had made the leather go dark over the years. So we did that on one of them. I can't remember which one. We did that on one of them, and then after I turned off the camera I did the other one because it was just exactly the same process. So you've seen how to do that. This time we're going to do the suede because this is just a flat yellowish tan colour, and I want to add some lighter bits and some darker bits and a bit more greyish brown to it. I want to make them look more like suede before we go in with the dusty weathering effects to make it look like he's, you know, these legs have been walking around the desert for years. But before we do that, we're going to make the suede look like suede, and then we'll get on with that. And also, before we do the weathering, we will be doing the aging on the jeans to make it look like fabric, to add some highlights on the raised bits, add some shadows in the deeper bits, make sure we've got everything right because there's always worn out bits on the bottom of the hems, things like that. We'll do the whole lot. Bits that might be, you know, where he's kneeled down, they might be a bit worn out and whatever there. So we'll do all that, and then the whole lot will get weathered, which is great. So let's get out what I need. Open up the flow enhancer. Got some kitchen roll already. Okay, what colours do I need? So I want some cream. I want some yellow ochre. Actually, shall I just change cameras straight away while I'm doing this? While I'm deciding what paint I need. Let's see if that's in the right place. Almost. There you go, that should be okay. Let's get me in the bottom corner. Okay. So, cream, yellow ochre. We will be using all the browns, so leather brown, chocolate brown, and umber. There you go. Light, middle, dark. And anything else that we can think of. So I think to start off with, let's see. Because when you look at pictures of people in these boots or him in these boots, they kind of always look a bit different depending on the photograph. But what I do want to do, I'm just comparing, I'm looking at these now, I'm just looking at some pictures that I've got up on my screens. I want to, let's get some brown washes on there first. It's difficult to know which one to use. You know what, I'm going to mix up, let's try this. This is why it's interesting for you guys watching me do stuff that is different from what I normally do. Because when I'm painting, you know, certain heads, when I'm painting most heads, but especially certain ones, things like the Anakin Skywalker head, that's beyond a huge distance the most popular thing that I've done, and that's still selling. People still want that. But other ones as well, like I've done a couple of David Tennants, and I've done a few. There's certain things that you end up doing a few of because people own the figures and want them done. And when you've done them a few times, even though I treat each one as a new thing, so every single one that I paint, every single Anakin I've ever done, every single David Tennant, every single whatever, each one, if you lined them all up, they would all be different because I very deliberately treat each one as if it's the first time I've painted it. So instead of just going, oh well, now I get this colour and now I get this colour and they all end up exactly the same, I will paint them and look at them and think, okay, what can I do now to make that a bit different? I think this time I'll use that colour. And because of that, each one gets done slightly different and the end result is different. Also, just because of the hand painted thing, the fact that it's also done manually with a brush, the fact that some bits are deliberately done to look random, everyone is different. But I sort of know how I'm doing them. With things like this, or even things like the Biggie Smalls head that I painted, it was interesting doing black skin because it's not something that I do that often. So with that and with stuff like this, it's interesting for you guys to watch because I'm doing this while you're watching and I'm thinking, okay, how the hell am I going to do this? And trying to figure out is kind of fun, and you guys get to see how I do it and also learn that I don't know everything that I'm doing. A lot of this just sort of gets done randomly and most of the time the results are okay. So let's see, got the focus in the right place, music is playing, microphone is on, counter is going up. Brilliant, let's start. I'm going to put some yellow ochre down just in case I need it, put some of that there. I'm going to mix, actually I don't want that brush, I'm going to need a more accurate brush. That one will do. I'm going to mix, just going to lean in a second, might get in the way of the camera. Some chocolate brown with some umber. I'm going to thin that way down. I want that to be really almost not there, just like pure liquid. I'm going to chuck some water in that as well, just because water is free and flowing hands it isn't. So that's a really thin layer, a really thin paint. Now I want to see what it looks like, so let's try it on the back of one of the heels. So I just want to see what it looks like because it's going to go on randomly, and this is going to be the first of several layers, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't look exactly right. Because there's going to be more shadows and stuff done. I can't even talk today. Make it a bit random. Nothing wrong with using your fingers occasionally. So I think it's going to be made. I think it's going to, you know, work when the highlights and stuff go on, because that's suede has that look of random highlights, and I think that is going to be when all of a sudden it starts to look right. I'm just doing way off the camera there. Trying to do some random bits in around the buckles and stuff. So at this stage I'm not even sure this is going to be the thing that gives it the result that I want, but I do want it done, and we've got to try, and when we're not sure we just try. We're not going to kill it. We're not going to do it and then if it goes wrong, oh my god, we've completely ruined the statue and it has to be thrown away now. That's, anyway, we just work on it and fix it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So I'm just looking around because I do think this is going to be quite a few layers. So what I'm going to do is just get that brown mix, just cover it all over. And the good thing that this is doing as well is, remember I said some of the bits like around the straps and the buckles and stuff were kind of hard to get to because of the way they'd been sculpted. Doing a thin wash like this that's dark and sort of shadowy when it gets into the crevices, it just helps because it sort of fills in those bits that you can't get to, which really helps. So I just got a softer brush there, that one. And that paint that I've just put on, I'm just sort of randomly swirling it around. Because it's really awkward to talk with the paintbrush in your mouth. Because I don't want it to look like blobs of water that are drying, but I also don't want it to look like it's come from a paintbrush, which this very hard-edged brush was doing. So if I can just sort of randomly swirl it around, that will help. And then when we go in with the extra layers, the back stuff has already dried, so let's go in and wet that again. Now it's a bit messy and stuff, but already you can sort of see that that one has got slightly more life to it than that, but it's going to be layers, it's going to be built up. We're going to do highlights, we're going to do more shadows, it's going to be fine. And because this is quite quick work, we will do both. I know on some of the other things I've done one and then done the other thing off camera just because it was a bit boring and you didn't need to see exactly the same thing again for another 45 minutes. Well, this one's quite quick, so I might as well do them both at the same time, and at least then I know both shoes are going to be the same. Right. Put the brush in my mouth, and before this, I'm just doing this before I paint the back because I want to do this before it dries. Paint on my hand. Okay, grab the brush again and do the back of these ones. Just stick some of the wash in between those bits. Ooh, difficult to get to. So it's just doing this light swirling with a sort of broken up soft brush. I'm barely touching the surface. I'm like hardly touching it, but I'm just breaking it up. So the bits where you can see a brush stroke, or maybe there's like a bubble on the surface of like that. Like sometimes you put paint on and you get a bubbly bit if it's very watery. Well, I'm just breaking that up. Just gently swirling it around, making it as random and patchy and swirly as I can. I don't want these to look the same, because they won't. They've got to look similar enough that they've been worn together and aged together at the same time. But I don't want them to look the same, because leather and suede things never do look exactly the same. They've got different patterns and different things. I know what I'm talking about. Alright, so I'm going to take... See, this is where I start getting random now. I'm going to take some of the... What's that called? Someone tell me what that's called. Yellow ochre. Thank you, whoever said it. I'm going to take some of the yellow ochre. Just a bit. And put these upside down a second. In the way that they stand on my desk. That's funny. Some yellow ochre and some cream. Let's take some of that dark colour to dark it up a bit. Actually, let's get some... Throw some grey in there to... I want to make it a little bit more neutral-ish. I don't want it to be this light either. Put way too much cream on there. And I'm using cream, not white, because I very rarely... I do sometimes, but I very rarely use white or black, because in the real world, most things, even things that are white and black, don't actually look white or black. Usually anything that's black has some element of highlights on it, and it looks slightly less than black. It might look very dark blue, it might look very dark grey. And things that are white quite often look a little bit darker, a little bit greyish, a little bit... They've got some colour on them, whether it's colour reflected off other things or whatever. So usually when I want to make things lighter, I don't use white, I use cream, just because, well, it's like an off-white. It's not perfect pure white, which just always feels artificial to me, and it makes everything feel colder than it should. But cream lets me use it in the same way as white, so I can make things paler than they are. But for me, it just keeps them a little bit more alive. I don't know why, it's just the way I prefer it. So I've got a greyish colour there. I may need some more brown in that, but I'm just mixing that up. Yeah, let's chuck some leather brown in this. See, I suspect, God, that leather brown's going to have to be replaced. Let me just check to see if I've got another leather brown, because that one is drying up on me. Please, 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 please. Yes! Brand new leather brown. Which means that one can go over there. And I will, if I remember, and I often don't, I will clean it out, empty it out, wash it out. So I've got a clean, empty little jar that I will use for something. I used to use them. I would mix my own skin colour. This was in the early days when my paintings that wasn't even a sentence. In the early days when the things that I painted were much more simple, I used to make my own skin colour that was the sort of the most colour that I used on a face. It was the main colour. So I would take some tan flesh, I would put some, not cream, pale flesh, which is almost like cream. I would mix some of that in, I'd put a tiny little bit of red in it, I'd make a sort of skin colour, And that was what I used on everything. And then I would add highlights and shadows and stuff. But I don't do that now. I paint. I build up the skin colour with many more layers of different things. So I just use that as a base now and build it up from there. Well, back in the day I used to use water on my hand, old paint pots to fill up with new colours. But I don't do that now. So I don't know what I will use them for. There's got to be something that I can use them for. I don't see. If I made models, I would probably use it more because I'd be able to use it to hold, you know, bits of plastic or bits of sand or anything that I would need to make a base, perhaps. I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I'm just chugging some more water in this. I threw a little bit. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even know why I'm trying to make videos. I can't even talk properly. Why are you even listening to me? Okay, so that's the grey and the cream and a little bit of the leather brown. Now that I found I have a new leather brown that I didn't know. Very, very thin, watery down. Might not even be watery down enough, but let me do the same thing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to chuck that brush in the thing. Let's go straight on with this brush. Instead of doing it with the other brush and then swirling it with this one, let's just paint it on with this. Oh, is this going to be right? I'm just going to dab this on. It's actually going to be a pain going up to the buckles. I might have done it in the wrong order. Maybe I should have done this suede first and then done the leather buckles, because I could have been a bit more free in doing all this stuff and not worrying about, is it going to go over the edges of the straps and, you know, make it look like I've just painted something. But it's fine. We'll do our best to not mess up the straps or the soles, I suppose. That's another thing. As I'm doing this, I've got to be careful to not go up against the sole. But if I do, it's fine. I know what the colours are. We'll just paint over it again and neaten things up. You know what? Already, even with just that little bit on, that's starting to look good. So we had the very yellowy tan colour. We put some dark on it. Now putting some light on it, and we are just going to build it up like that. I might need to get a smaller brush because some of these bits in between stuff I'm just not going to be able to get into. Like up against things. I know what I'll do. Hang on. I know. Let me get another brush that's just got water on it, and I can use that to clean up the edges. Hey, that's that fixed. Alright, you know what, this is just going to go all over the leather and stuff and the jeans, but there you go, fixed. Hurrah. Right, more. Ooh, missed a bit. Hang on, let me get some colour again. Bit of water on the brush. Clean off the bits that I just messed up. Okay, I'm just taking some of that same stuff and putting it on a little bit thicker around the edges. And you know what? This is sort of getting into now. It's merging from the taking the suede and just making it a bit aged into sort of going straight into the weathering stage, because this colour, as I'm making it into the suede colour, it's also sort of making it into how the colour looks and how I want it to look when it's covered in dust and a bit agey and a bit weathered. So that's sort of, not completely, but sort of half going into the next segment, because in finding that colour of the suede boot, I've sort of also found the colour of how it should look when it's all dusty and stuff. And there will be more going on it, and which will go over the jeans and go over everything. But that's actually getting really quite good. Okay, so let me take, so that's a clean brush, let me put that to one side so I don't forget. So I'm going to take some more of that, because I didn't do the back, because when I put it on heavier I only did the front. So I'm going to put some of that around the back, splodge it round, splodgy splodgy. Take this clean brush just with water on it, clean up the edges, which doesn't matter too much because when it gets weathered and all the dust, it'll sort of hide most of it, but I don't want bits to look like they've been painted with, you know, this light colour and for it to look like paint. I don't want that, so I'm just using some water on this clean brush to clean up any bit where I've gone over the straps or whatever. And then when we deliberately do the weathering and the dusting, we can go over everything, because that's fine then. And that will hide most things that, you know, maybe we didn't like. But that's already starting to look good. So it went from very yellow to yellow with a dark random wash over it, to yellow with a dark random wash over it, to with a lighter wash on top of that, and then we started applying more of that lighter wash even thicker on top, but as randomly as we could. So now I am just washing off the leather straps again as much as I can. Okay. So some thicker stuff of that, but dabbed and swirled on again. Why are you... give me a small brush. And there's bits under there that are not taking this very well, and I suspect it's from when I'm cleaning the straps, maybe brushing some of that off. So there's a strip underneath the strap that looks like it hasn't, you know, been lightened. And the full-on weathering will again cover it all, but I just don't want it to look like, I don't want to give any telltale signs that something has been painted, even though obviously it has. It's not what we want. Get a bit more of that. Sorry, I'm leaning under the camera there, aren't I? Those bits will do, and we'll do extra weathering around the edges when we do it. That's actually getting good. And I'm going to do the same on the other boot. And while that's doing, this will dry. And I will want to go in with a darker and more neutral brown on top. Because when you see sort of new suede boots, now there's different ones, but some of them are quite yellowy, quite sort of almost yellowy pink, some of them. But when you see old pictures, and there's not many shots of his feet in the films, but they look so aged in a certain way that there's none of that yellowish colour left to them. They're quite faded, and there's darker bits and lighter bits, but they're sort of like a browns that have had all the colour sucked out of them. So that's what we're trying to do. And obviously the dust goes on top, but I want to do some darker bits, big patches of some darker bits and then patches of lighter bits on top. But while we're talking, while we're doing all that, let me just get some of that light colour and paint over this. Now, instead of doing it in many layers on this one, I'm just going to sort of wash over the whole thing in this, a little bit randomly, some bits a bit thicker than others, and obviously I will go back and fix any bits where the colour hasn't taken, or rather I'll fix bits where the colour has gone over things, like the sole and the straps and stuff. But for now, just randomly painting this on. Get actually no, I'll use the same brush, wash it off a little bit and just lightly swirl it around, get rid of the brush strokes, get rid of the little bubbles, get rid of the bits that look like paint. I don't mind that some bits are a lot thinner, because I actually want that. Some bits to be thinner, some bits to be thicker. And before it dries, let me get this clean brush with some water, just go over the edge of the sole. Do the same on this side. Do the same on the straps. Okay, let's take it around the back. Do the bit between the jeans and the thing, and we'll clean that up in a sec. Get that in there. Okay, that'll do. Wipe most of it off. Very lightly swirl it around a bit. Go in with a clean wet brush and clean off most of the straps. Straps on the inside. Okay, that's quite good. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so let us take some of that grey, but instead of lightening it up, let's add some chocolate brown, a little bit of umber. Did I get any then? There you go. A little bit of umber. bit more chocolate, actually a bit of leather brown. That's getting there. Let me put these down. Upside down. Right. Add a bunch of flow enhancer. Add a pile of water. So I'm just making really runny, thin paint. Way thin, and it's going to be almost watery when I'm painting that on. Let's have a look. So they're not quite, well, they're almost dry. They're dry to the touch-ish. Bubbity. Alright, what I'm gonna do, let me put them down. I'm going to clean both of these brushes for a sec, just very quickly, and they're easier to clean because they've only had like really thin wash paint on them. When paint has been really thick and left for a while, it can start drying up. When it's very thin washes, it's watered down, so it's a bit easier to clean the brushes. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is take, hang on, forgot to clean that little one that I used. I'm going to take that brush, and I'm going to try something here. I'm going to get some flow enhancer and just paint some flow enhancer over it. Hopefully it's dried enough that it doesn't just wash off, because I could just brush all this paint away if I'm not careful. I should really let them dry some more, but I want to carry on painting so I can, you know, do this on the video. But if it's dry enough and if I'm just light with my brush strokes, it'll be fine, it won't go anywhere. Okay, so, and while that is wet, I'll take this washed down, watered down, darker brown. Might even be too dark to, and there you go, there's some of it. Whoop, too much, it's dripping everywhere. I don't want it to do that. And I'm just dabbing it on all over the place. Oh, picked up some grey there by accident. Sorry, I was dabbing on some of the dark brown wash and I picked up a bit of grey paint off the palette, which is actually fine because, you know, little accident, and it was definitely a bit more random because it wasn't intended, and stuff like that can make things better because random things are harder to paint when you're trying to do them deliberate. And if things do accidentally happen, then you take that as a happy accident and you run with it and you make the best you can from it. So I'm doing that while it's wet so that the paint that gets put down then sort of spreads out in the water, and it's a bit random and it depends. It can go, you know, brilliantly, or it can go sort of not the way you wanted it to, but it's just a case of doing it. And often gravity, when it's very wet, gravity can work against you because it just pulls all the water to the bottom. But if things aren't too wet, which this might be actually, but it's still working, just maybe some bits I'll have to go back over. That's actually working quite well. Looking at it, let's get some more dark in there. I picked up some wrong paint there, it's going to be way too dark. Yeah. So just some random bits to break up the colour. That's actually okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, you know what? No, forget that. I will do the back. I was going to do the other brush. The other brush? The other boot. But what I'll do first is do the back of that boot and then we'll go over. So put that one down. Pick up some brown colour on this brush. And just dab, 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 dab. Dab, 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 dab. Now, because of gravity, a lot of this is just getting pulled down. So what I will have to keep doing as it's drying is just keep going back, and any bits that look like water that are, you know, pulling down with gravity, I'll just swirl them up a bit. And any areas that lose the colour because the water's just all being pulled to the bottom of it, I'll just go back and touch it up. I think it's because I put so much liquid on there, the flow enhancer stuff at the beginning. I didn't need to put that much on. That was my mistake, I think. It's fine. It's actually working. Oh, just stretch my back a sec. Leaning over does not make your back hurt. Okay. So, I don't know, the light doesn't help, but you can see that was the one with the dark wash, then the light wash swirled over the yellowy colour, and that's the same, but with it painted, wet, new with water, and then thin bits of dark paint painted on, and it's just slowly spreading out a little bit, making it a bit more random. And then when that's dry, we're going to do the same thing again, but with some light bits, and then that is going to be, actually what we're going to do, let me just see if I can dry this a bit manually. If I had a hairdryer in here, that would actually help, but it would be very noisy, so I've always avoided getting a hairdryer. Just because I can't talk on camera if there's a thing going wee really loud. But I could do with this bit just drying quickly, so I could put some more paint on it and it doesn't just run off. Because of the shape of it and gravity, it's just all going whoosh to the bottom because it's too wet. But I don't want to dab it with a tissue because that'll pull all the water and the paint off. You know what, it's working fine. I can just do an extra layer. I'm trying to sort of get it all done in one go, and I can let it dry and then go back with another layer. I was just trying to get it all done in this one video. Okay, so doing the same thing, some flow enhancer, hopefully not as much on this one. So painting it all over. Okay, take some of the dark, not too much, and dab, 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 dab. I'm doing this, while the other one's drying, I'm just going back and checking over the other one, and if I can see bits are drying with sort of obvious blobs of paint, just messing them up a little bit. Okay, back to this one. Okay, flip it around the back, get some flow enhancer, not too thick though, cover the suede areas so it's a bit wet, and you could do this with water, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just doing it with flow enhancer because I've got it, and I think it takes a little bit longer to dry than water, so it gives me a bit more working time. I know the other acrylic thinner that I've got has a longer drying time. I think this does too. It doesn't really matter. I've never really needed to test it. I know when I'm painting with it, it keeps it quite smooth and feeling like paint more than water does, which just turns everything into water. So I'm just doing that, going back onto the other one, get rid of random, or I should say get rid of visual paint blobs that have formed because of gravity, but while keeping bits that are randomly dark, because that is what I want. Oh, let me stretch my back a sec. Oh. My back is fine, it's just sitting here sort of leaned over a bit, and especially holding a weight like this, because this is very heavy. Doing this for 8 hours can sort of make your back ache. Hang on, big stretch. Oh, okay. Okay, so they are starting to look really good. They're totally going the colour I want, and it's difficult to see because they're shiny, but I think once they're dry, actually I might not need to do any more on them, because don't forget, a lot of this is going to be covered in, I'm not going to cake it in dust, but I'm going to make it look like he's been in the desert, as opposed to just wearing gold boots. So it's going to have some dust on it and some extra aging on top, and because of that I don't think I need to do much more than that on the boots. I was initially thinking I was going to have to go back with a light colour and go back with a dark colour, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, you know what, that is, for a pre-weathering state, I actually think they look quite good. I will let them dry. Let me flip them upside down. Let me throw my brushes in the thing. Alright, let me change cameras. Come on, thank you. I clicked the button and it didn't do anything. I will let those dry, and then I will have a look at them and see what I think they're like. If I think they need more painting, if it's just more of the same, I might just do it off camera, because it might be boring. But if I think it's sort of more of the same but might be useful to see me doing it, because I'm still trying to figure out a way to get the right look, I might do it on the next video. I was hoping the next video would just be working on the jeans and making the flat resin look like denim to give it some texture, and that's going to be some brushing, it's going to be some bristle flicking, it's going to be a bunch of different things, and making them look aged. So jeans on the bottom, they always look lighter because the fabric's been a bit worn out going on and off the boots or hitting the floor or whatever. So we're going to be doing that. I will let them dry. I'm going to go make myself another coffee and I will see what happens on the next video. So when you come back, we'll either be doing a bit more work on the boots first, or we'll be going straight onto the denim and working on the jeans. So it's going to be one of the two. Who knows? Send your answers on a postcard too. Okay, so I will wrap this up. I'm just putting the lids on my paints so they don't dry up when I go and make my coffee, especially my new leather brown. I like finding new paints that I've forgotten that I've bought. It's exciting. I'm very boring. I'm an old man. I get happy with paint. Okay, so thanks for sticking around with me. Hopefully this one's a bit interesting because it's different. It may be a longer series, this one, because I'm doing a whole statue, or I may be getting the whole thing done quite quickly. I'm not sure. It's difficult to know, because sometimes when I'm painting heads, I'll get up to a certain stage like really quickly and I'll think, oh my god, this is flying past, and then all the detail stuff still takes me ages, and so it takes, you know, it doesn't rush past as quick as I thought. Because there's quite a lot still to do on this one. Obviously we've got the face, that's a lot of painting, that's what I normally do in a week. We've got the hands, we've got the gun, we've got the leather holster, we've got the hat to weather and age up, and then we've got the main part of the torso, which is quite a lot of work, because we've got to make the shirt look like a blue and white stripy shirt with stripes that are too thin to paint, so we've got to figure out how we're doing that. And we've got the suede vest with the furry top, and we've got the throw over poncho with the patterns on it, so there's a lot to do still. But the boots are coming on. Alright, look at them a sec. I think they are looking quite good. I'm just dabbing off a couple of watery blobs there because I'd had them upside down on the thing, so gravity was doing its thing again. They're almost dry now. They're starting to feel tacky now, so the paint shouldn't be moving around anymore. I think I may go back with a lighter layer, but not too much, because that's actually quite close to how I want it before I do all the weathering. So yeah, we'll come back on the next one and it'll either be the jeans or the boots again for a little bit, and then the jeans, which is great. Okay, I'll see you guys soon. I talk way too much on this end bit because I never know how to finish it. Thanks for sticking around. I've been Darren Connell. Hope this has been interesting. Be nice to other people, be nice to everyone. Let's just try and make the world a happy place. And my brain's not working today. I've been working a lot and my brain is slightly frazzled, as you can tell. I will see you in the next video. Take care.